Hi, so I'm Sanjay Puri, the principal architect of the firm Sanjay Puri Architects. We've been established since 1992 and I've done a vast amount of work in every field of architecture, including landscape and interior design. Very first thing in designing a house is to look at the site holistically with respect to where the sun direction is, with respect to the context of its surroundings, and the way the climate affects that particular site at different times of the year. The second most important point is to look at who the client is, what their requirements are, and what they would actually be comfortable with and enjoy. So in other words, you don't complicate a design for somebody who's very simple, and you don't make something very simple for somebody who may want something more complex. And thirdly is you put these things together and evolve something that is completely new to experience, keeping in mind the contextuality and keeping in mind what the client would want. This is one of those rare cases where the client had pretty much given us an open scope as to how the house could have been designed. What their requirements were huge. They wanted like 2 large living rooms and 9 bedrooms and big areas in each aspect of the house. So we were actually shown this site at the edge of a cement plant which is owned by the client, and it's a large area of 5 acres where he said that these large requirements of his had to be incorporated within this house. The site in itself had nothing else because it was just on the edge of a cement plant, but it had these low hills on the rear side, and then it had really large open spaces on all other sides. It was very open. So you have large requirements, but you have a very open land with which you can play. So you can integrate the built spaces with the open spaces in very interesting ways. So this house is broken up into 2 parts. It has a larger part which is for the owner, and a smaller part which acts as a guest house for various guests that keep coming to visit the cement plant. So the guest house portion has a smaller courtyard, and then the main house has a larger courtyard punctuating the center. Now this courtyard, we've taken this concept a little further. In this case, what we've done is, not only do we have these central courtyards, we've created external courtyards around the entire perimeter of the house. So what we did is we built the land up in mounds, reaching up to the first floor on all sides of the house in various parts in angular forms. And then every room opens into its private own little courtyard. Not only every room, every bathroom and every dressing room as well opens into these private little courtyards. There are a series of 18 smaller courtyards surrounding the house. So the courtyard was the first character that we imbibed from traditional architecture. The second thing what we looked at is the Bhungi village in Rajasthan. If you look typically at a Bhungi village, it will have about 60, 70 round structures. So what the Bhungi villages would do is build 1 room, and then as the family grew a little older, they would build another room, and then they would build a 3rd room maybe. So every house actually comprises of 3 different Bhungis, 3 circular forms which are slightly conical on the top with a thatch roof and built fully in mud. So this Bhungi concept has also been imbibed in the Courtyard House, where every single room of this house is discernible from the outside. It has an identity of its own. In this case, volumetrically, we have the perception of space changes in every single room as one enters it. Because you've got rooms like the living room, the main living room, which is 30 feet high, the ceiling, with complete glass looking out towards the mountains. You have the smaller living room, which is about 18 feet high. You have bedrooms which vary from 11 feet to 16 feet in height. So every single space within this house is volumetrically different. The third thing we looked at is the organic streets in India. In any of our old cities, we never had a rectilinear grid. So why today do we design on rectilinear grids? So this organic character of the streets in India is what is imbibed into the circulation spaces of this house. So this way you get orientations which are different. Every room has a different view of the outside, and at the same time corridors kind of flow through the entire space. Because it's Rajasthan, even though we had the courtyards and all of that, if you do a window opening to the outside and it's not sheltered enough, there is going to be a large amount of heat that is generated into the house. Every single room has windows that open into 3 to 4 meter deep veranda spaces or decks, so that the light that shines into your room is never direct sunlight. It's always indirect. Simply by the way of architectural planning, creates a house that is 7 to 8 degrees cooler than the outside without a single fan or air conditioner on. We chose exposed concrete as the main material because the house itself is designed in a sculptural way. The house was to look like a sculpture, sculpted against the greenery that is surrounding it, which has also been planned in conjunction with the way the house is. And concrete was available to us on site, no transportation cost, so obviously very reasonable. So you have the courtyards, the deep recessed windows, as well as the availability of concrete. These are some of the factors that make this bungalow completely sustainable in the true sense, simply by planning. It was a really nice experience to do this, because you had the space and you created something that was unique and different and sculptural and has a completely different perception of space within it. The execution of the project, being in India and everybody wants to work with a contractor who is very reasonable. So the challenge is to get this kind of a complicated design made through a contractor who is reasonable. I mean, the contractor has actually never made a shape that was like this before. So there was a lot of learning process for the contractor and a lot of explanation for us to do during the execution of the site. So actually that was the only challenge.